Last game that I want to touch on here is LSU Ole Miss. This was a game where LSU was favored later in the week. Ole Miss was favored. Vegas went back and forth. And going into the game, I thought, all right, LSU, to me, on paper, was the more complete team. The biggest question mark is, can they run the football against an Ole Miss run defense that was one of the worst in the country? They're a little light in the middle. I talked about on the recap. Outside of Xavier Harris, Will Eccles, they're light on the edges. Can he get after him? Even with Caden Durham out. And LSU couldn't do it. And I said I'm going to stay macro, and I am. But this is the first time in 4 years under Brian Kelly where I think it is more than fair to question, is this guy the right guy? Is this the right guy for the job? And people might say, "Oh, you're spoiled." Brian Kelly said that. 10-4, 10-3, 9-4, 4-1. And I'll tie in the parity thing. But it's been a little bit of like frustrating from the fact that it's been 4 years of like administrative handholding. And what I mean by that is you fire two coaches from the onset in year one that are arguably your two best and most valuable coaches on staff now. Blake Baker, your defensive coordinator, and Corey Raymond, both in charge of getting an absolute lifeless defense through the first 2 years of the program back on track. You go from Mike Denbrock to Joe Sloan. Joe's been there 4 years, has the continuity. You have Brad Davis that's been there for 4 years and has recruited well. But it was like, all right, hey, BK, I'm Scott Woodward. Hey, BK, here's Austin Thomas. He's going to get you right because what we've been doing the last 2 years hadn't been good enough. Hey, BK, here's Blake Baker because Matt House wasn't good enough. Hey, BK, here's Corey Raymond, who knows what it looks like because your first couple hires on the defensive side have been an absolute disaster. So my question is, like, what is a Brian Kelly football team at LSU? Like, when you play Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, I could give you an answer. I know they're going to be multidimensional. I know they're going to be creative. I know they're going to be explosive. And I know they're going to be opportunistic on defense. When I play a Kirby Smart football team, I know that's going to be a 60-minute game. When I play Josh Heupel in Tennessee, I know that, hey, we can't fall asleep on these guys because I know how dynamic they are on the perimeter. Like Brian Kelly, it was 2 years of high-flying. Jaden Daniels offensively couldn't stop anybody on defense. Now it's been a tenacious, aggressive, blitzing Blake Baker defense. And we can't run the ball? And there's a lot of things that show up in a course of a game of burning 2 timeouts in the second half, timeouts that you need, that it's year 4. You've been a head coach for 35 years. What's your excuse? What's your excuse in the lack of operation and execution? What are you getting paid to do that is adding value to this team? Front office has done their job. They completely flipped one of the worst units in college football. Offensive line. Here's Braylon Moore. Here's Josh Thompson. All I need from you, can you get left guard and right tackle right? Can you develop Cohen Eccles? Can you develop Weston Davis? Like, hey, we addressed all the issues on our team with zeros. We just throw money at our problems. And guess what? We've been pretty darn good at it. But, Coach, I'm going to need you to step up. Offensive line, we got to be able to run the ball. Aaron Anderson, Nick Anderson, Trey'Dez Green, Barry and Brown, Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton. I just named 6 players that will play in the NFL. And you got a first-round quarterback. Healthy enough. No, he's not. Anybody that does this for a living, go watch Garrett Nussmeier last year, watch him this year, and tell me that's the same guy. It's not. And you can put the decision-making on him. He's got to get better in some areas. A&T at the first half was terrible. But physically, you can't tell me that's the same guy. That guy is a lot more limited and banged up than whatever they've let on. And if that's the case, why didn't you sit him against Southeastern Louisiana? Why wouldn't you give him 2 off weeks within 3 weeks to get right? And it's easy for me to sit back here and critique it. I'm talking out loud. These are questions that I'm asking. So, like, what is LSU? Like, what are you? Who are you trying to be? And I'm not saying LSU's not a good team. I'm just saying if you're an LSU fan, there's 2 ways you can look at it. You can say, offensively, we didn't play well. Defensively, we had our moments. In any game, there's going to be things that happen like the West Weeks roughing the passer penalty that extend the drive. It ends up costing you 7 points. But, like, what are we? We need to execute better. We need to play at a higher level. Are you putting your guys in the best position to succeed? And that's the thing, man. I talk about coaching. I talk about developing. I talk about adapting week to week. What are the things that are not working? Is that a psychological thing? Is that a schematic thing? Is that a technical thing? What is it? And the thing that's troubling if you're LSU, this goes back to last year. Couldn't run the football. And you had a guy that went top 5 and another guy that went in the 3rd round. So I'm generally wondering what is the value that's being added. Because the answers have come in the form of money. Blake Baker, top 5, highest paid DC in the country. Corey Raymond, got to get you back to reestablish DBU. All things that could have been avoided, by the way. So is that what's going to happen again this offseason if you don't make the playoffs? Back to the drawing board. Hey, well, we got to make this work. Let's go get Tommy Rees or whoever. And I think that's where LSU is. If they don't make the playoffs, it's another year of, like, spending more money. It's not my money. I don't care. And they've done a good job, and they're invested, and they're better than they've ever been there. But it's like, I'm just wondering, what, like, as the head coach, what are you adding to this team in terms of identity that you could say, like, over these 4 years, this is where we've gotten substantially better to justify the expectations in the contract that I have. Brian Kelly's a good coach. I'm not saying that. The expectations at LSU are to win a national championship. And in year 4, with the roster that they have, which is a better roster than Ole Miss, and I'm not saying you're going to beat every team that you line up against, that on paper you're better suited to win against. What I'm saying is there's no more excuses. Like, oh, we got to play better. Yeah, no. Yeah, we know. We have eyes. But That's on you to get them right. So if I'm LSU and I'm a fan of LSU, I have every right to say, can we fix it? Like, that's a legitimate question. Can we fix it? Alabama fans, week 1, they said, can we fix it? They got their answer against Georgia. If you're an LSU fan, you're asking yourself the same thing. Can we run the ball against South Carolina? Can we run the ball against Vandy? Can we do enough to make sure that this team reaches its potential as a college football playoff contender? Which, let's make no qualms about it, this team, on paper, should be in the college football playoffs. Ask the people bankrolling them. I know that's tough. I know those are tough critiques. But, like, that's the job, man. You know. And with that, I'm saying, yeah, the conversation is now open up. I mean, we're in the timeline now where it's like, hey, proof's in the pudding. You know, maybe you've elevated the floor of the program. Nobody cares. Nobody, you know, there's really not that big of a difference for LSU fans if you're 9-4 or 4-8. They want ships. They want to be like Ohio State. They want to be like Oregon. They want to be in it every single year. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what you signed up for.